Hello there, g'day and welcome. I'm Royce Pentaghast. I'm an artist, writer, designer and Star Wars fan who enjoys drawing realistic renditions of once animated Star Wars characters. Embo is a Kyuzo bounty hunter, first introduced in the Clone Wars, who would go on to appear in The Mandalorian and Grogu. Another member of this alien species appeared in The Force Awakens. Kinda. Constable Zuvio confounded collectors and shoppers as this unusually striking yet beige character didn't seem to be in the movie, as he was cut, his action figure warming pegs to this day. Maybe his hat was inspired by Embo, or maybe it was a case of the design coincidentally looking similar. I never considered the Embo connection myself, but either way he's been designated as the same alien race. And after Embo's appearance in The Mandalorian and Grogu, and a few posts from my internet pal, Cobalt Green 1138, I thought I'd use this opportunity to try and render a realistic take on Embo that would be more consistent with the live-action descendants and inspirations. At least, that was the plan. To get started, we need to look at the source. Embo originated in the Clone Wars, an animated series with a unique visual style. Character proportions are slimmed and lengthened, and there was a slight caricature to early designs. Jedi were given superhero silhouettes, evil characters were made sharp and dangerous, bulky characters were made even bigger. This didn't last for long. Most live-action characters were just made thinner. And with this style applied to existing characters, surely we can assume that the same approach would have been taken to these original characters. But very often these designs are translated directly into real life. Embo looks like he's just had an enhanced texture pack installed. He would be tall and lanky in live action, but if Anakin Skywalker isn't this skinny in the movies, then Embo needs to be bulked out. Looking to his face, and the design of the animation is quite rough and sharp. But he has these sunken eyes that glow with no regular pupils, and no visible nose, as he always wears a breathing mask. I looked to Constable Zuvio, and this is when I started to run into issues. Some of Zuvio's features bear a resemblance to Embo, but they're too distinct, with cat-like eyes and nostrils beneath them. Should Embo have nostrils here too? What's the point of the breathing mask then? God, it's like 2020 all over again. Zuvio made an appearance in the X-Wing miniatures game by Fantasy Flight Games. This is the source that identifies him as a Kyuzo, the same species as Embo. Apparently these games are a bit dubious with their canonicity, so it might not be correct, but it is for the time being. But how do these two dudes from the same species look so drastically different? Yes, there can be diversity in a species, but not this extreme. Perhaps these are two distinct species that hail from the world of Fatrong. And Kyuzo is a term they use to refer to all of themselves, because they're cool and get on with each other. There's a novel idea. Kinda like the Utai and the Powans from Utapau. Embo remains without a visible nose in The Mandalorian and Grogu, but his eyes now have pupils. Remember, if the live-action version came first, it's an interesting choice to not give him pupils in the animation. Mind you, wouldn't be the first time. His stripy skin is rendered with an insectoid-like appearance, which I quite like. Rendering my Embo, I did as the film did, and interpreted some odd proportions like the bigger feet as stylization. In terms of his proportions, I look to sportsmen like the AFL player Aaron Sandilands and the skateboarder Tony Hawk. The colours of movie Embo are very muted, and I think they somewhat detract from his appearance. Plus he looks weirdly slimy or leathery in his textures, it's very weird. The yellow quilted vest was based off one worn by one of Jabba's goons in Return of the Jedi, so I decided to add that back in. Finding out this information is actually what made me go ahead and do this to begin with. It's something that was evidently lost in the original design and really lost in the translation over to live action. The hat is an interesting one. Proportionally, it's as wide as his shoulders, so it does look a bit smaller when it's on someone with a bit more realistic proportions. It's one of those weird grey areas, like, obviously, if we imagine there was a live action that this was based upon, this stylized version would be lacking in details that the live action would have had, but it's like, do you go add in details that were never there and change the design so drastically? Yeah, a bit of a grey area. The pauldron is slightly wider than the hat. This item was rendered as a fabric material in the film, inspired by the Sandtrooper pauldrons from A New Hope, but it does look like metal in the animation. And I was kind of stuck on this for a while, thinking, well, that's too clunky, he'd whack himself in the head every time he did a flip. But I mean, this is Star Wars and he's already wearing a wok on his head, so should be fine. I looked a little to the shoulder and chest armour of Vader, given its sort of solid appearance with some elasticity between the plates. I think that's the kind of vibe to go for with Embo's armour here. The little dial or badge that's hanging off the pauldron, again, that feels like a stylisation if we imagine there was a live action version. This is a very freehand detail that would have just been drawn off there in a sort of jaunty way, maybe. The belt buckles of the show have a really tough, durable look to them, but for some reason they've been interpreted as metal ingots which have been glued to his belts. It's remarkable, we're actually losing detail in these adaptations. Given Embo has a few Japanese inspirations, his species name came from the character in Akira Kurosawa's Seven Samurai, I looked at Japanese designs and landed on this World War II army belt for the waist buckle, but I held off on adding additional engraving. The bandolier, it's a slightly chunkier buckle, and the 4 canisters which are hanging on the bandolier in the show are now just whatever ammo he has left with a few empty slots. Finally, the animated Embo has 3 fingers and a thumb, while movie Embo has 4 fingers and a thumb. And while yes, some cartoon characters are given 3 fingers, Clone Wars isn't a show to do that. All its humanoid characters have the correct number of digits. So Embo should have 3 fingers and a thumb on each hand. So, here's my take on the Kyozo Bounty Hunter. It's a very colourful design that was sadly lacking in the movie. It does make him look a bit cartoony, not helped by the exaggerated proportions, but the yellow vest did originate from the live action, so it makes sense here. It's on model. I don't know why people are so afraid of colour. Like, surely the grasshopper man with the conical hat would be even more visually interesting if he was all colourful. But what do you think? And are there any other characters you'd like to see me tackle in future? Let me know, and I'll see you next time.